Resourcers, welcome to Aleza Lake Research Forest. I'm standing here in a bog site at the research forest. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about how bogs are formed, a little bit about the ecology of a bog, and then of course we're going to take a look at some of the trees and plant species unique to this site, and also a few that you can find on other sites as well. So to get started, I'll just give you a little glance around of what this bog looks like. You can hear my dog splashing around catching mosquitoes in the background. So, speaking of mosquitoes, mosquitoes breed on wet sites. Bogs are wet sites. It's classified as a wetland. They form in two different ways. So a bog can form, one way would be a small lake or a small pond is taken over by sphagnum moss. So there's no drainage, it's a very stagnant pond. And the moss eventually encroaches over the water and takes over the site, closing up the water, making it basically a jiggly moss site. This site doesn't seem to have a central area that's covered in moss. To me, it appears more like it was a low-lying depression with very poor drainage, no streams flowing in or out of this site. So rainfall collected here, so moisture would collect, the moss would grow and develop on this site, and hold all that moisture on the site. So this site is, the moisture levels are fed by rainfall, and it's held quite tightly by that sphagnum moss, which we'll take a closer look at in a little bit. So being a wetland, lots of rainfall being captured here, not flowing out of the site. So the growing conditions are quite wet. You can see behind me there's not a lot of trees growing on the site. It's quite open and sparse. That's partially because it is so wet, so it's difficult for a lot of species to establish. Their roots get drowned out on the wet conditions. And another reason you see unique diversity on this site is because of the nutrient poor conditions. So a bog, one of the main features of a bog site is it is nutrient poor. So the reason the nutrients are low on this site, one is because there's lack of movement of water on the site. The moisture is standing still, so there's no stream flow coming in, bringing nutrients with it. And the other is wet soils often are cold, and decomposition is slow. So if decomposition of organic matter is slow, that means the nutrients aren't being released for uptake to the plants growing here. The conditions here are also very acidic because of the sphagnum moss. Sphagnum moss releases hydrogen ions into the soil or into the area that it's growing, also creating unique conditions that not all species can adapt and grow to.